Derek Stingley Jr. gets his deal yesterday, and it is a significant deal. And it's not highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, which is now a thing because cornerbacks aren't in that conversation. It's going to be a pass rusher or a receiver at this point that ends up being the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And that leaves us with Micah Parsons. And we talked earlier about how Houston, and this is embarrassing for the Cowboys because the other NFL team in the state, the one that Jerry used to look down his nose at, they're showing him how it's properly done.
He's getting whooped. Bob McNair is showing that he's one of the better owners in football. I mean, he's Cal McNair. I'm sorry. I got too many damn names in my head with the draft and old players and old owners and all that. Sorry. Cal McNair, though, is showing he's a pretty damn good owner. Other than maybe Jack Easterby, okay? I don't want you to go down that road.
He's gone.
I know, but that might have been a strike against him in your book. But yeah.
I wasn't gonna mention the fact that the things changed for the Texans the moment they fired Jack Easterby. I wasn't gonna mention that.
Okay, well, we did. Well, I did that, so we keep it real here. That's what we do. But other than that little element right there that I know you're not in love with, there's been a lot of good there. And I got to give him a lot of credit for what he's done with Nick Caserio. Of course, he's a part of the Deshaun Watson stuff, right? The way getting D'Amico Ryan in there, he seems to have the right touch about letting his football guys do the right thing and let them do their thing, and he kind of just infuses when needed. And I do respect the way they're doing things down there in Houston.
The reality is that there is some sort of some tension between the Cowboys and the Texans, but the Cowboys have always viewed themselves as superior. Jerry Jones said some things back in 2008. The Cowboys have never been about checkered tablecloths and boots and hats. They've been about glitz and glitter. Leave the other stuff to the Houston Texans.
Oh, wow.
And Bob McNair, who was running the team at the time and had only been around for 5 or 6 years, he didn't take the bait. But the Cowboys, they're America's team. Let the Texans be Texas's team. The Cowboys are America's team. But what the Cowboys are finding out, they're not going to be either if they aren't careful, because the Texans are far better suited to get to the conference championship game in the AFC, something the Cowboys haven't done in the NFC since 1995.
Hey, I think I've never seen morale so low around Cowboys fans, ever. I don't really remember it ever like this. Anywhere I go.
How would you feel if Brian Schottenheimer, I feel bad every time I say this, but come on. Brian Schottenheimer was on no one's radar screen as a head coach.
Yeah.
No one's radar screen ever. They didn't want to pay Mike McCarthy. They didn't want to sign him to more than a 1 or a 2 year deal. They wanted to have continuity for Dak Prescott. So Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator. So let's just make him the head coach so Dak won't be upset. It's that simple. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. Most of the time, the simplest explanation is the right one. That's the explanation. They got cheap with McCarthy. They got cheap in looking for a replacement. They wanted to placate Dak, and here's Brian Schottenheimer, who would be the head coach of no other team in the National Football League.
Agreed on all. And, yeah, that's we know Cowboy fans are everywhere, right? But the ones I see now are always like, man, Cowboy, what are we doing? What's going on? It's never a positive thing anymore. Very strange, right? Because I definitely grew up in an era once I got into 10 years old and past where it was the greatest thing going there for a while, the Dallas Cowboys. So it's kind of shocking to see.
The Cowboys are kind of becoming like the Raiders have been. The two villain franchises of the 70s, at least from the perspective of somebody who grew up near Pittsburgh. The team that everyone hated in the AFC was the Raiders, and the team that everyone hated in the NFC was the Cowboys.
Yeah, right.
Those were the two. The Raiders fell off. Yes, they won their 3 Super Bowls, but they fell off at some point in the mid-'80s. And other than somehow they stumbled into the Super Bowl after the 2002 season. They've had a couple of playoff appearances since then. They've been largely irrelevant. I feel like the Cowboys are teetering toward becoming largely irrelevant. And big picture, best teams in football, they have been irrelevant for 3 decades. My favorite stat in the NFL, the Cowboys played for the right to go to the Super Bowl in 16 of the 30 first Super Bowls.
Right.
16 of them, the Cowboys played in the game to go to that championship game. The past 30, as of this year, 0. And does anybody really think they're going to be playing in the NFC championship game to head to Super Bowl 60. I mean, crazier things can happen. They could get lucky. They could stay healthy, and everybody else could be injured.
Yeah, but we don't see it happening.
I would be stunned if they're in the NFC
Freezing
Championship.
cold takes. You can get me right now. I'm not picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I'll be shocked if Dallas is in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Well, or even the NFC
or the
Championship,
NFC Championship
even the divisional round. I'd be shocked if it happens for the Cowboys this year, and that's not going out on a limb. That's a pretty safe guess based upon where they currently are. So they got to get this Micah deal done, and we'll see if they get it done soon or if they drag their feet and he misses the offseason program, stays away from training camp, and then ultimately signs and isn't ready to go for 2025 and maybe gets injured in September or October, and that just wastes the season for the Cowboys in 2025, all because there's just a combination of cheap. What did I say? They're cheap, they're short-sighted, and they're not as smart as they think they are. That's what I said last year about the Cowboys, and they've done nothing to prove me wrong in the 1 year since then. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.